Hello again and welcome to the Warhammer 40k Imperial Guard Tactics video. So before we get started, I want to say a massive thank you to George Wigglesworth, epic name, for sending in this very impressive picture. This, guys, is what a pure Militarum Tempestus army looks like. There are 110 Scions, 3 Tempestus Primes, 1 Lord Commissar, and 3 Taurox Primes. That, my friends, is a lot of firepower. Because what you got to remember, guys, is 100 Scions, that is only 1,000 points. So there's plenty of room for George in here to put loads and loads of plasma, melter, whatever you want. 100 Scions is a hell of a lot of bodies. It's a hell of a lot of firepower. Absolutely epic. I'm really interested, George, to see how your army's performed, especially since the big FAQ, because you're the one that'll be able to tell us if it's made a big difference. Have you had to add more DACA primes, or have you been able to keep the army the way it is? And also, how is it performing? Is it destroying things? And in general, I mean, how is it performing? And is it absolutely destroying things? What are the tactics that you use for this? And what's really important is, how did you build it? Was it just start collecting kit after start collecting kit? If you could leave a comment or two, that would be absolutely fantastic. Now, on to the video. I am going to be talking today about the return of Codex creep. Now, this is not meant to be a rant video. It might come across as one, but it's not meant to be. It's meant to be sort of a analysis of Codex creep. So, for those of you that don't know what Codex creep is, oh, sweet child, please stay ignorant, for ignorance is bliss. Essentially, the issue, it's a long-running problem with 40k. As in, I can't remember a single edition where this hasn't been the case. Where basically, the first few codexes that are released in any edition are really powerful, and so loads and loads of people go out and buy that army, and then Games Workshop, with the major factions, every codex that is released after that is slightly more powerful, and slightly more powerful, and slightly more powerful, until by the end of it, after every codex is released, the last major faction to get released has, in theory, like a really, really powerful codex. And we've seen this before. We've seen it edition and edition after edition, and we're seeing it more so in 8th edition. So, in theory, 8th edition was meant to be, new GW, new Games Workshop. And in theory, it was meant to be balanced. And that's why they released all the indexes at the same time. Now, they initially released the indexes, and there were some balancing issues. But then there was this good trend of FAQs and lots of other bits. And it started to balance out. And people started getting more used to 8th edition. At first, there were certain factions like the Imperial Guard that were absolutely dominating 8th edition. And it was partly because Guard were strong, but it was mostly because people just weren't used to Guard winning games. And people just weren't used to just dealing with a Guard-style army, which is a shooty horde. Most other horde armies, like Orcs and Tyranids, people were able to deal with because they're close combat horde armies. But Guard are a shooty horde army, which made them a complete outlier, and 8th edition at the beginning really suited them. Now, they were not impossible to beat. This is the thing. I played against Johnny, who's my regular Blood Angels opponent, and the first couple of games, they were really one-sided. I won. But then, it clicked for him how to deal with my Guard, and I probably, honestly, my Guard versus Johnny's Blood Angels, it is 50-50. We've each won 50% of our games versus each other. It's always really close. It's always down to the wire. And this was when both sides had indexes. And even when I had a codex before him, it was still the same thing. Maybe I had a few more stratagems, a few different units. So my army got mixed up a little bit. But then he adapted and he got into 8th edition. He started learning how to clear hordes. You know, you've seen the battle reports on my channel. He learned about, you know, assault cannon razorbacks. He learned about tying up units and just destroy, you know, not just going pure close combat, but he basically learned to shoot the screens and charge the tanks, and there's not that much I could do about it, and it was really close games, and it would come down to dice rolls. But Games Workshop, in an effort to balance the game, started releasing a lot of FAQs, and this caused a lot of people to get upset, myself included, because we would say, and I said, I've bought a Codex, and 2 weeks later, half of it's been FAQ'd. Slight exaggeration, but that was the problem. But they were FAQing things to make it more balanced. Conscripts, I think they went slightly too far. Conscripts should just be 3 points a model and have the other restrictions they currently have. And Commissars should be the way they are. I'm happy with it like that. But they went one step too far by making them 4 points. But anyway. But the problem was that a lot of people complained. And, you know, Chaos got released, and then loads of FAQs, and now they're not as strong. Space Marines got released, FAQs, they're now not as strong. And then, because of these complaints, Games Workshop started releasing codexes, and then they were like, well, we're not going to release an FAQ for it, or an errata, or a balance. I'm not going to do that. Instead, we're going to balance things around chapter approved. And we're going to balance things around chapter approved instead, and around the big FAQ. And the problem that this has is it meant that certain factions have remained really, really powerful. So Tau have had their codexes released, and everyone at first saw Tau and thought they were rubbish, and now they're absolutely, really, after a while, after a few games, it became very apparent that Tau actually really, really top tier, and Riptide spam is back. And then Dark Elder, for example. Dark Elder are just clearly too cheap. It's just obvious to anyone that's played them. They're just far, far too cheap. And it makes it a really boring games to play against Dark Elder. Because, essentially, if you get first turn against Dark Elder, you'll probably win as a guard player. If they get first turn, you'll probably lose. It's as simple as that. And that makes for really boring games. It's just who gets first turn, okay? Unless you have absolutely atrocious dice, we already know how this game is going to go. And that's really, really annoying. Now, I am just a little bit concerned that Codex creep is here to stay. I mean, Elder are still super powerful. And it's gonna remain. Dark Elder are really, really powerful. Tau are really, really powerful. The last 3 codexes of major factions have been absolutely insane. Knights don't really count. Deathwatch don't really count. Harlequins don't really count. They're all minor factions that Games Workshop is just. We should be grateful that they keep them updated. Now, what remains to be seen is how well Games Workshop balance things around the big FAQ. Okay? And chapter approved. That is where it really remains to be seen, because they seem to be doing a good job, but it's a little tough. It's a little unfair. Okay? Because whilst the big FAQ has, done some fantastic things with adjusting, getting rid of flyer and spam and increasing Dark Reaper points. Because I didn't even see a single pure Elder army at the last tournament. I just don't think there were many Elder players in that meta. There were a few. Often there were some Elder as allies, but there wasn't a pure Elder army, which was interesting. It was often Dark Elder and Elder working together. But that's what I've seen a lot of the time. But what I find a bit unfair is the fact that factions that got released at the beginning and got quick FAQs got screwed, and now the factions that really, also deserve to have FAQs are not getting them, and so they're remaining broken and overpowered. And their codex are remaining pretty much unchanged for 6 months. And it's a little unfair. Yes, it's great Games Workshop learned things, but surely, and I mean this 100%, surely all the current FAQs on all the codexes, for any points changes or rules changes, they should go. And instead, Games Workshop should release in the next FAQ all the rules changes there. Because at the moment, it's too difficult to keep a track of all the different documents. And that way, a big FAQ comes out, and then everyone gets balanced at the same time. What's happening at the moment is there's codexes which are struggling, and they've got these FAQs which are holding over from an old meta. Like conscripts backed up by commissars being fearless now, that wouldn't even be meta breaking anymore. That wouldn't even be a thing. That wouldn't even be a problem anymore. That was a problem for the beginning of 8th edition, and now it's not even, you know, the way other codexes are, that wouldn't even be a problem. Dark Elder would have no issue with that. So that's what I'm saying should happen. I don't think it will happen, but essentially Games Workshop should make an announcement, right, all FAQs are getting pulled down. The big FAQ is, with all the points, costs and everything there, that's the way it's staying. Oh, no, sorry, Games Workshop should release one big FAQ. I know they've already done it, but they should read, this is how I would have done it. One big FAQ, and that's where it's going to be. And then everyone's balanced. Games Workshop, what I'm trying to say here, I'm not being super clear, but it's because I'm sort of thinking this through as I'm saying it, is essentially what Games Workshop need to do, as in now, as in tomorrow would be good please, is Games Workshop needs to get rid of all old FAQs and release one faction, all factions FAQ. Because at the moment, what's happening, or errata, whatever I say, at the moment you've got imbalance, and the way you need to bring balance back is by doing a hard reset and treating everyone equally. You can't have some codexes which have had multiple FAQs, multiple rule changes, and others which haven't had any or very little. You just can't have that. It's imbalanced. It just shouldn't be that way. Everyone needs the big FAQ and the big chapter approved. They need to be done every 6 months, like they are being done. But we need one essentially now, and it should get rid of all the old FAQs and just start again. That's what needs to be done, and that way everyone has an equal footing. They should do that when all the this is what I'm hoping. This is what I hope happens. The last codex, which is going to be Gene Stealer Cult, is going to get released in about September, and they should then. That gives us 3 months of solid normal playtesting, and there should be a chapter, and then once the last codex is out, chapter approved should come out in December, and it just gets rid of all old FAQs, and this is where they go, right, all codexes are out, chapter approved, / the big FAQ, this is the big balance document. Bam! And now everyone's got it, everyone's got a codex, and everyone is covered in this one book. And we've listened to all the feedback, and everything is in there. That's what needs to happen. If that doesn't happen by the end of the year, it's basically back to the old ways. Elder on top, Tau on top, Guard on bottom, and just fucking hello 7th edition. And Games Workshop's going to rip off the face mask and be like, haha, there was no such thing as new GW. It's always been the same GW, the one that's gonna shaft you. Hopefully that won't happen. Anyway guys, tell me what you think. Am I being paranoid here? As far as I can see, Codex creep is alive and strong, and Games Workshop needs to do something ASAP to fix it. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Leave lots and lots of comments, and of course, I'll see you guys next time.